We live in an age where the idea of the divine is often treated casually, like a comfortable, familiar concept. But look up at the night sky. The physical scale of a universe filled with billions of burning stars points to a creator of staggering, almost incomprehensible magnitude. The ancient Hebrews understood this magnitude. Their word for God's glory is kavod. While we usually translate it as glory, the literal root of the word means heaviness or gravity. Kavod implies a physical density. In ancient thought, the presence of God possessed an actual weight. It was the absolute, uncreated center of gravity for all existence. Approaching the Creator in the ancient world was a dangerous act. It meant stepping into a gravitational field of immense power, a density of perfection that fragile, flawed humans were never built to withstand. After leading the Israelites out of Egyptian slavery, Moses finds himself navigating the isolating, harsh geography of the Sinai wilderness. The pressure of leadership is crushing. To understand the mind of the God leading him, Moses makes a staggering demand. He asks his Creator directly, "Please show me your glory." God agrees, but issues a terrifying warning. His presence is so absolute, so overwhelmingly pure, that no human can look directly at his face and survive the exposure. Moses needs intimate knowledge of God's ways to guide his people through the desert, yet the very revelation he requires is physically lethal to receive. True, unfiltered exposure to absolute moral perfection is instantly fatal to a flawed creature. This creates a profound dilemma. How can a human survive an encounter with the infinite? The encounter takes place at the imposing peak of Mount Sinai. To grant Moses his request without destroying him, God engineers a physical workaround. First, God places Moses inside a narrow cleft in the mountain, using the dense rock to shield him from direct head-on exposure. Second, as the raw glory approaches, God covers the opening of the rock entirely with his hand, completely blocking the prophet's vision. The protection is just as essential as the revelation itself. God mercifully shields Moses from the exact majesty Moses audaciously asked to witness. Passing the rock, God makes a verbal proclamation. He calls out his name, Yahweh, defining his nature through mercy, grace, and persistent patience. The sheer weight of God's glory is tied directly to these attributes. This absolute moral perfection makes his presence impossibly heavy. Only after passing, God removes his hand. Moses looks out, seeing the luminous contrails of the divine presence streaming away into the distance. He survives solely because he witnessed the lingering, fading evidence of God's weight, rather than looking directly into the face of the one testing it. This fleeting glimpse gave Moses the exact proof of gravity he needed. It was a calculated act of mercy, allowing him to absorb the reality of the Creator and live to tell the story. Moses walked down the mountain alive. Yet the deepest human yearning, the desire to look directly into the face of God, was left entirely unsatisfied. Centuries later, the prologue to the Gospel of John introduces the resolution to this ancient dilemma. John records a definitive turn in the story. The Word became flesh and tabernacled directly among humanity. The lethal divide was crossed through descent. The Creator entered the fragility of our own nature to make his glory accessible. Jesus represents the invisible God. He clothes the fatal kavod of God's majesty, safely containing it within human flesh. This incarnation embodies the grace and truth shouted on Mount Sinai. Now, those attributes are translated into a human face we can finally look at. Because of Christ, humanity no longer has to hide trembling inside the dark cleft of a rock to survive proximity to their Creator. The veil of human flesh absorbed the lethal intensity of the divine. Looking upon the absolute glory of God face to face no longer destroys us. It transforms us.